the first pairing of Doorwarz Elimination Day. Non-electronics, the first class. Up to party, Lance, the Zealots. Racing the full clip Malibu up against Rob Monroe Jr. and the SD Performance Gibson Racing Transmissions Horizon Paint 1969 Acadia. .322 with a 128 miles an hour. Rob Monroe Jr. goes a 1071 at 123 for the first installation pass. It's just one foul right on the tree for Rob Monroe Jr. Bring up the next pairing up on 5 of the race over here, TCS side. I can tell you right now, it's Richard Love in the S10. Lordco side, double red ball, 2 thou to a 17 thou right on the tree. Love gets there first. 1052 with a 9, 126 miles an hour. The racer over in the TCS lane going at 1175 with a 1 at 109. We bring up Matt Marshall out of Hazleton to race Trevor McDonald. 1995 GMC out of Airdrie, Alberta. Burt Worrell will bring out the 1969 Dart against Cade Shirk in the Blue Genie for Titanium Auto Group and Fat Black Incorporated. Worrell turns on the red line by 0.02 of a second. Cade Shirk was 1/10 to the good. Worrell goes at a 10.010, 132 miles an hour. Cade Shirk went 13.244 with the 7 at 101. Brings up Mustang over here on that TCS side to race Brian Heffel in the Chevrolet over out of Abbotsford. 434, small block Chevy engine underneath Heffel's machine. As he'll roll straight into the pre-stage beams. Heffel runs through at a 9.417, 143 miles an hour. The driver TCSI goes 13.317 at 100 miles an hour. Bring up Krista Loudett for Titanium Auto Group in the GMC Jimmy to race Dave Shirk in the 1986 Blazer out of Kelowna. 5.20, 115 miles an hour. For Dave Shirk, Krista Lauda goes 13.746 at 93. Clocks in at 9.65, 135 miles an hour. His opponent was a 12.710 at 105. Racing out of Linden, Washington, clocks into 10.23 with an 830 miles an hour in the Chevy Nova. Nick Barnhart takes the Ford, the barn find Ford, to a 10.28 at 128. Brings up Kevin Garlock over in that Camaro Lordco side. Attention to pits, attention to the pits. We need electronics to lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Box, electronics, lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is going to put junior dragsters and junior classes on standby. Rob Ellers runs down a 10.63 with a 225 miles an hour in the LS Stang. Simone goes a 10.53 with a 7 at 93 miles an hour. We'll bring up Everett Heath in the Chevy Nova out of Maple Ridge for 1972 over in the TCS lane. It'll be the Lordco lane to get there first with a 9.59 at a 138 miles an hour. Everett Heath goes 11.096 at 117. Dustin Brewington bringing up the Chevy Camaro over in that Lordco lane. Brewington on a very, very successful season thus far, taking race number 5 in the 70T series for the Bubba Speed Shop Pro bracket, as well as races 6 and 8 in Super Pro. His opponent runs a 9.24, 140 miles an hour, while Brewington himself goes 13.913 at 98. So Sylvia Hoogston's going to look to get there ahead of the 1999 Camaro. Camaro runs down at 10:23 with a 4, 129 miles an hour, while Sylvia Hoogston's goes 12:58 at 106. Darren Bust will bring up his Chevy Nova from 1968 out of Sydney, BC to race the Corvette. Often running in the Super Combo category over in that Lorco lane. The Corvette goes 8:19 with a 7, 166 miles an hour. Darren Bust goes 9:90 with a 6 at 133. This is going to turn into a single pass over here in the TCS lane. Barry Madison carrying the front wheels of the Coronet. Gets back down to terra firma, runs through a 984, 137 miles an hour. And some sort of fluids needing to be cleaned up over on the start line on the Lordco side of the racetrack. Brings up Mal Patterson of the Albion Tireland Malfunction Acadian. It's one of the cars that loves to carry those front wheels up when it leaves the hitch. Through it at 10 with a 6, 132 miles an hour. Brings up Dustin Hunter in the Ford Falcon, racing Ross Walker's Chevy 2. Dustin Hunter looking to be one of the quicker cars here in non-electronics. Double a 9 on the tree for Ross Walker. Dustin Hunter, 12 foul to the good. Hunter goes a 909 with the 0, 147 miles an hour. Ross Walker a 1005 at 131. Continuing to advance in our way through no box qualifier number 1 is the Horizon Painted Auto Body Supplies Chevy 2, driven by Daryl Tippy out of Surrey, racing Jim Stahl in the Mustang over North Coast side. And Tippy clocks in a 1070 with a 9, 124 miles an hour. Jim Stahl goes 11474 at 119. Sean Langley brings up the Mach 1 Hustler. Sportsman champion down at Pacific Raceway from last year, racing John Tabak in the Rad Torque Systems S10. 005 on the tree for Tabak. Go to the top end with a 1052 with a 5, 126 miles an hour. Sean Langley goes 11897 at 112. Jeff Whitworth will bring out the Ford Mustang out of the 9-0 for precise mechanical repairs to race Larry Rodenizer in the old Yeller Ford. Roadster gets there first. 9:44 with the 6, 139 miles an hour. Jeff Whitworth is 13:004 at 107. Jim Banky will race the Plymouth Barracuda for Rantor Systems, Titanium Auto Group, and Bucky's Mini Excavating over the TCS lane, racing longtime friend and rival Chris Stone, the Stone Cold Racing Dodge Dart. Big wheels up launch for Jim Banky. He'll run through 9:95 of the 4, 133 miles an hour. Chris Stone goes a 10:037 at 130. We'll bring up Mark Muscant. Muscant racing Lordco Auto Parts. Machine racing the Roadster. And the 66 Studebaker, no match for the Roadster. The Roadster gets their first 891 with a 4, 141 miles an hour. Mark Muscant coasts through to a 16:47 at 82 miles an hour. Matt Warner coming out from Sumas, Washington, the Linden Service Center. 66 Mercury to race Andy Antle. The Antle Total Shop F100. Huge wheels up launch. Matt Warner gives a little bounce before finally sent down to terra firma. Antle gets their first 881 with an 150 miles an hour. Matt Warner goes 10:47 at 124. Haven't seen Andy Antle out much so far in the 2023 season of the Titanium Strip. I believe this is only the second time I'm seeing that truck out to party. Hoping he'll be back out later on. Attention to the pits, attention to the pits. Junior Dragsters, once again, you're on standby. Junior Dragsters, this is once again your standby call. We'll be calling you up in short order. Mike McMahon, bringing up the 69 Camaro for MasterCard. Going up against John Van Derzen, the 66 Chevy 2. McMahon goes at an 889, 152 miles an hour. John Van Derzen goes 10:57 at 93. Kevin McCauley brings up the cutlass of the top end. It is Rob Hodgson, though, to get there first. 10:79, 123 miles an hour, while Dale Jansen goes 11:94 with a 9 at 111. That's going to wrap it up for no box qualifying.
So here we go, Nolan. Looks like non-electronics coming back up to the lanes, or to the line, and in the lanes right now is a very full field of non-electronic competitors, around 40 cars taking time in the first qualifying session.
40 cars exactly taking times in the National Tire non-electronics category here for Doorwarz 11. We begin our second rotation of qualifying hits for the bracket categories. It'll be the last hit of qualifiers before we start eliminations later today. Ryan Johnston hightails up with the Nasty Fish Racing Investors Group Corvette. Clocks an 8:23 with a 7, 166 miles an hour. Krista Laudit goes 13:491 at 96. Current number one qualifier would be John Tabak with a 005 reaction time. Of course, not that it matters anything, as we have way more than 16 cars. that will make this random for, I think, the first 2 rounds at the very least. Justin Brinton brings up the Camaro against Neil Cutherson in the Chevy pickup out of Aldergrove. Dave Schrick will bring up the Blazer to race Jeff Whitworth of the Precise Mechanical Repairs Ford Mustang over in that Lord Kill lane. Matt Marshall will bring up the pickup out of Hazleton, BC to race Brad Powell out of Linden, Washington in the Chevrolet. .10.22 with the 330 miles an hour. Matt Marshall goes 11.78 with a 5. At 108, we'll bring up Eric Hansen. Want to thank Mr. Transmission North Vancouver himself. Racing the Plymouth to race Brad Owens in the Bel Air. Brad Owens goes a 9.83 with a 135 miles an hour. Eric Hansen goes 12.82 with the 2 at 104. We'll bring up Jim Stahl in the 2004 Mustang against Brian Heffel in the Chevrolet. .09 on the tree for the Vega, 04 here at TCS side for the Mustang. And the Vega gets there first at a different zip code. 940 with an 8, 142 miles an hour. Jim Stahl goes 1149 at 119. That brings up Sylvia Hookstins in the Mustang to race Trevor McDonald in the GMC pickup. As Trevor McDonald will run the GMC pickup and Sylvia Hookstins will run at 12.55 with a 506 miles an hour TCS side. McDonald goes 10.81 with the 2 at 125 miles an hour. The Barn Find Fox Body makes its run up, driven by Nick Barnhart to race Cody Plews. An Ansel towing Chevy Camaro. Jim Banky takes the Rad Torque Systems Titanium Auto Group Bulkies Mini Excavating Wheel Stamping Barracuda to a 10:01 with a 2, 129 miles an hour. Chris Stone ran a 10:04 with a 5 at 130. That brings up Richard Love in the Reflections Guesthouse SS Motorsports S10 to race Brandon Piskasek in the Motor in Canada with Thomas Ford Mustang. Still no one in this second qualifying run coming close to beating John DeBag's 005 on the tree. Andy Antol brings out the Antol Towing Shop truck once again for the F100 to race Larry Rodenizer in the Old Yeller. That one we good to the tree for Larry Rodenizer. Andy Antol almost 2/10 though on that tree. Antol goes 881 with a 3, 149 miles an hour. Rodenizer goes 946 with a 2 at 139. We will bring up Matt Warner in the Larkill lane for the Linden Service Center machine. Wheels up high for Matt Warner, slams down to terra firma just shy of the 330 mark. 15th thou red on the tree from Matt Warner, but carrying that car well over 45 degrees on the launch. Runs through with a 10:51 with an 824 miles an hour. We'll bring up John Van Derzen in the Chevy 2 against Rick Hoekstra in the pickup. As Van Derzen runs at 10:45 with the 3 at 94 miles an hour, we continue through no box qualifying. Ralph Ehlers brings up the LS Mustang Fox body to race Kevin McCulley in the 66 Canso out of Armstrong. McCulley will rip the Cutlass up towards the top end. $11.98, 110 miles an hour for McCulley. Ralph Ehlers went 10:74 at 124 miles an hour. We'll bring up Rob Hodgson in the Dart to race Barry Peterson in the 1965 Cornet. Hodgson goes 10:85 with a 7, 122 miles an hour. Barry Patterson goes 9:88 with a 1, 136, which will bring up Everett Heath in the Chevy Nova and Mal Patterson, and he'll out the entirely malfunctioning Acadian. Patterson goes a 10:13 with a 6, 131 miles an hour. Everett Heath goes 11:11 with a 2 at 117. We'll bring up Blair Criddle into the Precision Performance Ford Roadster to race Dustin Hunter in the Falcon Fast Ford Falcon. Criddle runs through with an 896 at 146 miles an hour. Dustin Hunter ran a 910 with a 5 at 146. We move up to Rob Monroe Jr. in the XT Performance, Gibson Racing Transmissions, Horizon Paint 1969 Acadian. Joins Sean Langdon in the Mach 1 Hustler. As Rob Monroe Jr. clocks in with a 10.75 with a 1 at 123 miles an hour. Sean Langdon goes 11.91 with a 3 at 112. We'll bring up one of the Shirks, believe this to be Cade Shirk over here in the GMC Jimmy, nicknamed as the Blue Genie for Titanium Auto Group and Fat Black Incorporated, racing Daryl Tippy and Horizon Paint and Auto Body Supplies 1962 Chevy 2. Trip zip with a 2 on the tree for Daryl Tippy. 2 10,000ths of a second rockets to the #1 qualifying spot. That will be a nigh impossible time to beat short of a quad zip. We'll see if John DeBack can follow up on his 005 reaction time, racing Al Proc in the Plymouth. And not able this time around for John DeBack, goes 028 on the tree, so still not a bad light. Proc 6/10 late on the call with that one, as DeBack will run a 10.51, 126 miles an hour. Proc on 11.184 at just 101 miles an hour. Brings up Mark Muscant of the Muscant Racing Lordco Auto Parts machine out of Vernon. The Studebaker will race Ross Walker in his Chevy 2. Attention the pits, attention the pits. We need box to lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Rad Torque Systems Electronics, lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5 for your second qualifying hit and your last qualifying hit on the day. .003 red for Ross Walker. And so he'll take that light to the top end with a 10.07 with a 6 at 130 miles an hour. Mark Muscant will put down a 16.47 at 82 miles an hour. We bring up Lance Bissolet with the full clip Chevy Malibu to race Jeff Bell in the Dart. Jeff Bell goes 9.62 with a 0, 138 miles an hour. SLA goes 10.65 with a 0 and 126. Attention to the pits, attention to the pits. Junior classes, you are on standby. All junior classes, you are on standby. We bring up Kevin Garlock. Oh, sorry, we do not bring up Kevin Garlock. We bring up Darian Burst first in the Chevy Nova on a single pass over Lordco's side. .990 with a 7, 133 miles an hour. We'll bring up Kevin Garlock in his Chevy Camaro to race Mike Mahone. It's a battle of the Camaros, 71 versus 69. One of them, though, we need to take a second look to make sure it was a Camaro. With the motor, he's got underneath that a 498 cubic inch Chevy motor. Sponsored by MasterCard over in that Lordco lane. dead heat towards the quarter mile. It'll be 8:75, 154 miles an hour from Mike McMahon. Kevin Garlock goes 8:96 with the 7 at 147.
So you can see just a little bit of scraping to do there on the starting line just before we get into eliminations, and some traction compounding laid down there is, again, non-electronics kicking off the eliminations here on Saturday of Doorwarz. National Tire bringing us that category. Big thanks to National Tire for helping us out, as well as all of our class sponsors here at the Doorwarz weekend, including MDA Fabrication Outlaw 275, Gulf and Fraser Financial Limited Street, Inline Sales Pro Street, Jerry's OK Tire Real Street, Rad Torque Electronics, Canada West Door Slammers helped out by Paradise Homes this weekend, as well as Peden Industries junior classes. And we got the NWCR Stock and Super Stock competitors out here as well. So a full weekend of racing here at Mission Raceway Park. Well, I think we got Nolan Reppel down there in the staging lanes trying to get word with a few competitors down there. I know Nolan's trying to make his way through. At least throw it down. Nolan, looks like the lanes are pretty full right now as the first pairs are starting to roll up.
Full indeed back down here, and was going to get a word until the engine's fired up. The oil cleaned up from the start line. We're getting set to go racing here for the National Tire non-electronics category, Doorwarz 11.
Thank you, Nolan. So the first pair getting ready to roll into the water box as we'll have Matt Marshall in the Chevy pickup truck, tower side. Matt out of Hazelton, dialing in at an 11:78 up against the Mustang, Jeff Whitworth from Nanaimo, his 1983 Fox-bodied Mustang, dialing in a 12:90. And for those of you that are new to bracket racing, you can see the dial-ins. These are what the driver's kind of estimating that their car is going to do. They cannot run over that dial-in. And the idea is, if everybody runs dead on the dial, it's pretty much going to be a dead heat at the stripe. So Matt Marshall, again, the racer out of Hazelton, BC, over here on the TCS side of things. Stage, waiting on Whitworth to bump in. So Whitworth getting the head start, and it's up to Marshall to try and track him down in the truck as they race to the top end. First pair in non-electronics. And Whitworth is going to get there first. 13:29 on that 12:90 dial at 97 miles an hour, and at 12:10 on the 11:78 dial at 107 miles an hour for Matt Marshall, with that reaction time that started with a 3. Not exactly what you wanted. An 0:98 light for Whitworth, as the next pair already staged up and ready to go.
Crystal allowed it. Hightails on the racetrack at the GMC Jimmy for Titanium Auto Group against Trevor McDonald. McDonald chasing her down. Can't get around her. Crystal allowed it, taking the whole shot win. 13:5.58 at 95 miles an hour. Taking that win by just 10 one-thousandths of a second. We'll move to Richard Love in the Reflections Guesthouse SS Motorsports S10 to race Ryan Johnston and the Nasty Fish Racing Investors Group. Down at 8:26. So about a 2.3 second difference here on the tree. Solid reaction times all around as we'll hightail up towards the top end. It was a 001 for Ryan Johnston. That translates to a race win as he drives around Richard Love and throws down an 8:28, 156 miles an hour. We bring up Brian Heffel to race his Chevrolet against Brandon Piskasek in the Motoring Canada with Thomas Ford Mustang, down to the 13:18. Piskasek, one of the slower competitors here in the National Tire non-electronics category. But of course, it's not all about the overall speed. It's about how good you are on the tree, how good you are on the brakes at the top end. And Piscasek will get himself into round number 2 as Brian Heffel turns on the red light by 0.07 of a second. So Piscasek knocks out Heffel in round 1. We'll see him back in round 2. Larry Rodenizer brings up the old Yeller 4, dialed at a 945. To race against Rick Hoekstra in the Chevy pickup, dialed at a 1042. And by 0.06 of a second, it'll go the way of Larry Rodenizer, who will drive around Rick Hoekstra. We'll bring up Derek Shirk to race Blair Criddle. Dave Shirk, knocked out in the Blazer, goes red on the tree by almost 0.2 of a second. Blair Criddle will take the Roadster to round number 2. We move to the 2000 Mustang over here, TCS side, to race Andy Antle in the Antle Towing Shop truck F100, dialed at an 883. That truck deceptively fast, able to run well into the 8s as Jim Stahl will bring up the Mustang, dialed at an 1151. As we race to the quarter mile, where a double breakout will give it the way of Andy Antle, the lesser offender, under the dial by just 0.04. Jim Stahl was over a 10th. Next pairing up, Neil Cutherson brings up the Chevy pickup to race Rob Hodgson, a typical hot rod runner in his Dodge Dart, racing at a 1087. Red light start by 0.03 of a second on the tree for Neil Cutherson. TCS side gives the win to Rob Hodgson, who will take it to round number 2. Sean Langley and Everett Heath both breaking out of the top end. Only 5,000 though for Sean Langley, and the Mach 1 Hustler will move to round number 2. Move to John Van Derzen in the 66 Chevy 2, down to the 1045 to race Sylvia Hoekstens in the Ford Mustang, down to the 1257. John Van Capel, carrying the front wheels down the racetrack and breaks out of the top end by a good half a second. That's a huge margin under. Went a 995 on the 1045 dial. Sylvia Hoekstens will move on into round number 2. We bring up Cody Plews in the Antle Towing Chevy Camaro from 1995, down to 1430 to race Cade Shirk In the Blue Genie, Titanium Auto Group, Fat Black Incorporated, Jimmy. And a red light start for Cade Shirk. We'll see Cody Blues move to round number 2 as Cade Shirk goes 600s right on the tree. Ralph Ehlers brings up the LS Mustang Fox body. The race, the Racktorque Systems, Titanium Auto Group, Bucky's Mini Excavating, Wheel Standing Barracuda, driven by Jim Banky. Banky hightailing it up and after Ralph Ehlers. Perhaps unsurprisingly, gets around him as Banky winning that race on the tree here. Better by 400s, the margin of victory, 200s up at the top end. We bring up the Studebaker over here, driven by Mark Biscant for Biscant Racing and Lorco Auto Parts out of Vernon. Over TCS side to race Brad Powell out of Linding, Washington in his Chevy Nova, dialed at a 1024 to a 1647. Powell is going to have to be a patient man if he wants to get himself the wind lights around number 2. Not patient enough. Brad Powell, red lights on the tree, left just shy of Muscant, reaching the 8th mile mark, went 79 thousandths red on the tree. Brad Powell will move on to the pits as Mark Muscant will take it to round 2. We bring up Dustin Brewington in the 99 Camaro out of Kennewick, Washington, has proven himself to be a big threat for the Pro and Super Pro titles with some solid performances all season long. Today, racing for $2,500 in non-electronics in the 99 Camaro out of the 1026 against Kevin McCulley in the Oldsmobile Cutlass. Force of habit, just rating off of what's on the screen, shows that it's not always the best. Sometimes these beautiful things called eyes tend to work wonders. McCulley going to race to the top end of the Cutlass. It'll be Dustin Brewington moving on to the next round, though. Race 1 on the start line again. 0.04 of a second difference on the tree. Dustin Brewington will move to the next round. We bring up Brad Owens in the 1955 Bel Air out of Bellingham, Washington, dialed at a 965 to race Dale Tippy in the Horizon Paint and Auto Body Supplies Chevy 2, dialed at a 1071. Red light start. Daryl Tippy eliminates himself by just 6/1000ths of a second for Tippy. Will take Brad Owens in the Bel Air through to round 2. Ross Walker will bring up the Chevy 2 down to 1007 to race Mal Patterson and his Albion Tireland malfunction indicating down to the 1015. Attention to the pits, attention to the pits. We need electronics, lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Electronics, lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5 for first round of eliminations. Wheels up high for Mal Patterson, but all show, no go. 11th thou red on the tree will take Ross Walker into the next round. And only 3/10ths of a second off the dial as well. Ross Walker was dialed in on that pass. Nate Barnhart will take the Barn Find Fox body up against Jeff Bell in the Dart. 1052 to a 962, about 9/10ths of a second separating this pairing. And a red light start again by Jeff Bell. Good half a tenth red on the tree that time by, as Nick Barnhart will move to round 2. Dustin Hunter will bring the Falcon Fast Ford Falcon down at a 907 against Chris Stone for the Stone Cold Racing and Willowbrook Chrysler Dodge Dart. One second exactly will separate these two beasts on the tree. And a red light start for Dustin Hunter. 17 foul red. While Chris Stone was 17 foul to the good. And Chris Stone moves on to round 2. We bring up our next pairing. Matt Warner for the Linden Service Center machine, dialed at the 1056 to race Darren Burst in the Chevy Nova, dialed at a 990. Warner carrying the front wheels. Back down to terra firma, and double breakout gives it the way of Darren Burst. 21 thou under to the 55 thou under for Burst, as he'll take it to the next round. Matt Warner going to be packing up early. Terry Kramer will bring up the Dodge Demon to race Barry Patterson in the Coronet, 919 to a 984. Terry Kramer takes the drag pack Challenger through to the win light. Just 11th thou victory over Barry Patterson in the Coronet. Move to Russell Jeffrey, dialed in a 930 to race John Tobacco of the Rad Torch Systems S10. Dialed at a 1054. The number 2 qualifier with a 005 reaction time for Tobacco. It was an 028 on his second qualifying hit. And Jeffrey going to turn on the red light as John Tobacco will move to round number 2. And Al Proc takes the Plymouth. Dial at a 1077 to race Kevin Garlock. Dial at an 894 in the Chevrolet. Red light start, Kevin Garlock. Al Proc moves into the next round. We're going to shut things down as reports of a bit of fuel leaking out of Kevin Garlock's Chevrolet on that last pass. So our start line crew is going out, just double check at the track, make sure everything's safe to run. Once again, we've called Rad Torque Systems Electronics to lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Rad Torque Systems Electronics. This is your second call to lanes 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mike McMahon going to be bringing up the MasterCard Camaro. In the meantime, over here at TCS side, we'll be racing Eric Hansen for want to thank Mr. Transmission North Vancouver down in the Plymouth over there, Lordco side. And looks like whatever was down the track is either already evaporated or isn't a hazard on the racetrack. So that is some excellent news. It means we can get ourselves back underway to National Tire Non-Electronics. Only a couple of cars left in our first elimination round here in this deal. Really seeing these stands packed full now, especially over here Tower side. Thank you again for taking the time to join us here on a beautiful sunny Canada day as we go racing for one of our biggest events of the year, Doorwarz 11. Relatively new event, but boy is it still just exciting every single year. Red light start for McMahon as the Camaro will eliminate himself. Eric Hansen moves to round 2. We bring up Rob Monroe Jr. for SD Performance, Gibson's Racing Transmissions, Horizon Paint and Auto Body Solutions, racing Burt Worrell at the 1969 Dodge Dart, dialed at a 1010 to a 1075. And a red light start for Burt Worrell. We'll see Rob Monroe Jr. moving on to round number 2 of National Tire Non-Electronics. That's going to do it for No Box for first round of eliminations. So burnout's complete for our first pairing of round 2 of eliminations in National Tire Non-Electronics. Ryan Johnston brings up the Nasty Fish Racing Investors Group Corvette out at an 828 to race Sean Langley in the Mach 1 Hustler. And champion from 2022 for Sportsman down at Pacific Raceways. Two green lights as we hightail up towards the quarter mile. It'll be a breakout for Ryan Johnston by just 4 thousandths of a second. That'll put Sean Langley into round 2 of eliminations. We bring up Krista Loudett in the Titanium Auto Group GMC Jimmy Dowd of the 1357 to race Jim Banky in the Rad Torque Systems Titanium Auto Group Bucky's Mini Excavating Plymouth, dialed at a 1003. And Banky, on a rare mistake, turns on the red line for the Rad Torque Systems Titanium Auto Group Bucky's Mini Excavating Barracuda. Krista Loudett's going to go through to round number 3. We bring up Mark Muscant, the Muscant Racing Lordco Auto Parts Machine out of Vernon, BC, dialed at a 1655 to race Rob Monroe Jr. for SD Performance, Gibson's Racing Transmissions, Horizon Paint and Auto Body, dialed at a 1075. Muscant got his opponent to red light the last time by way of a high dial. Driver couldn't be patient enough. We'll see if Rob Monroe Jr. will make the same mistake. He does not. We have green lights all around. Now the question is, will he feel the need to go under the dial to get around him? He will not. In fact, it's the other way around. Mark Muscant breaking out under the dial, put upon the pressure by the Acadian. Rob Monroe Jr. moves to round 3. We bring up Ross Walker in the Chevy 2, dialed at a 1008 to race Rob Hodgson at a 1085. Wheels up, wheels down for Ross Walker as Rob Hodgson will turn on the red light. Walker moves on to round number 3. Attention to the pits, attention to the pits. Electronics to the back of staging to be laddered. That is electronics. Come to the back of staging to be laddered for round 2 of eliminations. Brad Owens brings up the Bellingham Washington Bel Air. Whoa, carrying the front wheels, and he's going to abort that run after turning on the red light as Eric Hansen gets the free pass in the Plymouth into round 3. Red light start for Nick Barnhart. Goes red by a 10th. And that'll put Dustin Brewington to round 3. Bring up our next pairing, Brendan Piskasak bringing up the motoring Canada with Thomas Ford, and it'll be all for naught of the Mustang as he turns on the red line by a 10. Silvio Hoopstins will go into the next round of the 66 Mustang. Follows it up with a 1270 with the 3 at 106 miles an hour. Terry Kramer will come on up in the Drag Pack Challenger to race Cody Plews in the Ansel Towing Chevy Camaro, dialed at a 1430. Oh, and going up into the smoke is Terry Kramer as he spins the wheels off the hitch. Could not get the Challenger to link up. Cody Plews goes into the next round with an easy win over Terry Kramer in this deal. That brings us up Larry Rodenizer now in the old Yeller Ford over here, TCS side. We'll race Jeff Whitworth in the Precise Mechanical Repairs Ford Mustang, dialed at a 1290 over Lordco's side. Again, you hear Whitworth feathering that throttle. Larry Rodenizer try to use that to his advantage and chase him down. And yeah, he does get around him, but on a double breakout, we'll take it with an 04 under the dial to Whitworth's 07. We bring Al Prock in the Plymouth down to the 1099 to race John Tabak at the Rad Torch Systems S10, dialed at a 1052. Tabak will get around Al Prock by 0.4 of a second up at the quarter mile. We move up to Chris Stone and Still and Cold Racing, Willowbrook Chrysler Dodge Dart down to 10.07 to race Blair Criddle into Precision Performance. Ford down at an 8.98, the Ford Roadster. And it's a red light start for Blair Criddle. Criddle had his opponent red light in round 1. This time it'll be the other way around as he'll turn on the red ball. Then Chris Stone will rocket through to the next round. Bring it up for Darren Burst in the Chevy Nova to race Andy Antle in the Antle Towing Shop Truck F100, 987 to an 880. Two green lights as we start to race back towards the quarter mile. And Andy Antle runs in an 885 to take the win. I believe that'll wrap it up for National Tire No Box.
All right, Krista Louette and Andy Antle. Christopher Maple Ridge in that 1990 GMC Jimmy, sponsored by Titanium Auto Group. Going against Andy Antle from Lac La Hache, sponsored by Antle Towing. No. Krista Louette taking off first. Andy Antle's chasing her down, however, goes 0.17 red. Krista Louette moving on into the next round. Cody Plews in the 1995 Chevy in the TCS lane, sponsored by Antle Towing, going against Eric Hansen from North Vancouver in the 68 Plymouth. He'd like to thank Mr. Transmission North Van, Cody Plews, and Eric Hansen here in non-electronic class, Doorwarz 11. And a double breakout, but this one going to Eric Hansen, a 12.77 at 105. Larry Rodenizer in the Lordco Lane 1946 Ford called Old Yeller, dialed in at a 944. Dustin Brewington in the TCS lane from Kennewick, Washington, and that 99 Camaro, dialed in at a 1027. Liftoff as the Old Yellers going after Dustin. Can he do it? Double breakout, this one going to Dustin Brewington. Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. The final call for non-electronics. Final call, non-electronics. Please, you should be in the lanes. Chris Stone, TCS lane, sponsored by Stone Cold Racing. He's a Mission resident in that 68 Dodge with a 440 Mopar, going against Ross Walker from Langley in his 66 Chevy 2 with a 427. Dial-ins are pretty even, 1007, 1008. Here in non-electronics, Doorwarz 11. Waiting for Ross, here we go. Double green, great launch here. Heading down the track here in eliminations of non-electronics, very close. going to Chris Stone at 10.07 at 127 miles an hour.
So Chris Stone dead on the dial. 10.07 with a 0. Almost perfect to the 10,000th of a second. 5/10,000ths of a second away from being completely perfect for Chris Stone out of Mission in the Dart. On that previous pair in the TCS lane is Sylvia Hoogstens and Sean Langley up for the next pair. Battle of the Mustangs. Houston dialed in with the 12.65. Langley dialed in with 11.93.
Attention in the pits, attention in the pits. Stock and super stock to lanes 5 and 6. Stock and super stock to lanes 5 and 6, please.
So Sylvia getting the win over there in the TCS side of the racetrack, running a 12.63 on that 12.65 and a 11.87 for Sean Langley, so a double breakout, but Hoogsten's breaking out by the least in the Mustang as deemed by the computer.
Pretty exciting racing here at Doorwarz 11 in the non-electronics class. Actually, all the classes. It's been great racing all weekend. Here we are, Saturday, Canada Day, and tons of racing. We're going to be racing deep into the night, folks.
So here we go with the next pair in non-electronics. So it is Rob Monroe, who's also running in Real Street this weekend, up against John Tabak over there in the Rad Torque Systems Chevy S10. Things fairly even in the dial-in department as Tabak dialed in at a 10.52. And Monroe, the TCS side of the racetrack, dialed in with a 10.72. So a very slight head start. So Rob Monroe getting ready to try and take out John Tabak, who's been on a tear so far throughout the day. Both of them leave clean and green. Tabak trying to track down Rob Monroe as they get to the top end. 10.53.6 for John Tabak getting the win on his 10.52 dial-in. Rob Monroe running 10.78 with a 719 miles an hour, the TCS side of the racetrack. So Tabak is going to be moving on to the next round of non-electronics for the racer out of Maple Ridge in that 1989 Chevy S10. So National Tire non-electronics getting deep into the eliminations. So Chris Stone, over there in the Dodge Dart, the Mission Raceway Staple and Bracket Division competition in NHRA Summit ET Series action. Ran a 10.07 with a 0 on his 10.07 dial-in in the last round up against Sylvia Hoogstens in the 66 Ford Mustang, dialed in with a 12.63. Chris Stone having to play catch-up in the Dart as he tries to reel Sylvia in, and it's going to be Chris Stone on a double breakout. 10.06 with a 6 for Stone on his 10.07 to 12.47 with the 3 on the 12.46 for Sylvia in the Mustang.
Krista Loudon in the TCS lane from Maple Ridge. She's racing a 1990 GMC Jimmy with a 350 small block Chev sponsored by Titanium Auto Group. It's going against Dustin Brewington from Kennewick, Washington in the 99 Camaro, running a 408 LS. Dustin dialed in at a 10.25. Krista a 13.48. Off Krista goes, and here comes Dustin after her. Non-electronics class here at Doorwarz 11. Dustin Brewington moving on a 10.26, 123 miles an hour. Next up, it's John Tabak from Maple Ridge, 1989 Chevy S10 truck, sponsored by Rad Torque Systems, going against Eric Hansen from North Vancouver in the 68 Plymouth. Big thanks to Mr. Transmission in North Vancouver. Attention in the pits. Attention in the pits. Can we get the juniors to the lanes, please? Juniors, can we get you to the lanes, please? John Tabak taking this one, moving on. In eliminations and non-electronics, a 10.57 at 106 miles an hour. John Tabak, also a former announcer here. Great guy as well. Juniors, please make your way to the lanes. All juniors to the lanes, please. All right, moving into non-electronics here. The National Tire non-electronics class at Doorwarz 11 on the titanium strip. Semi-final action here for the National Tire non-electronics class is John Tabak in the TCS lane from Maple Ridge. It's racing that 1989 Chevy S10 with a 365, sponsored by Rad Torque Systems, going against Dustin Brewington from Kennewick, Washington, running a 2000 or a 1999 Camaro, rather, running a 408 LS. John Tabak dialed in at a 10.44. Dustin a 10.24. Who will be moving into the final round? We're going to find out right now here in the National Tire non-electronics class. It's a double breakout, but John Tabak breaks out last. 10.43, 124 miles an hour for John Tabak. Breaking out 4,000s off his dial, but it doesn't matter. He is going to the final round in non-electronics. Chris Stone with the bye here. So Chris Stone with the bye, he's going to be meeting John Tabak in the final round of the National Tire non-electronics class. That's going to be a great final as well. Lift off for Chris Stone. Great reaction time. Chris Stone, sponsored by Stone Cold Racing, a 008 reaction time at 10:01 at 131 miles an hour. He'll be meeting John Tabak in the final round here of the National Tire non-electronics. The National Tire non-electronics final here at Doorwarz 11 on Canada Day on the titanium strip here at Mission Raceway. This should be an exciting race here. Final round, National Tire non-electronics class. Chris Stone in the TCS lane, 1968 Dodge, running a 440 Mopar engine. He's from Mission, going against John Tabak from Maple Ridge. 1989 S10, running a 365, sponsored by Rad Torque Systems. John dialed in at a 10.42. Chris Stone, a 10.01. Here we go, final round. Oh, man. Unfortunately, an easy win for Chris Stone, John Tabak. Stone, a mega red light. Not sure what was going on there. John Tabak, congratulations at 10.41, 128 miles an hour.
Uncharacteristic red light there for Chris Stone as John Tabak also left a little bit early, but Stone leaving the worse on the starting line, you could say. 10.01 dead on the dial for Stone, and then Tabak broke out, but that didn't matter because that thing was decided on the starting line. So John Tabak, your winner in National Tire Non-Electronics in his 89 S10 for Rad Torque Systems, and getting the job done on day one of Doorwarz.